running. I didn't win. Someone else has a better chance than I do. And that's what we believe, and that's why I'm not running. And, you know, circumstances can change, but I'm just not going to let my head go there. I remember that great line from Dumb and Dumber where the...
So you're telling me I have a chance.
Yeah, right, there you go. You remember. You're telling me I have a chance. That's one out of a million.
All right, folks, that was Mitt Romney on the You It radio show addressing whether or not he would run again. One person who probably will run again, or run, I should say, is Hillary Clinton. We'll get to her in a second through Jennifer Rubin, who has written about her at the Right Turn blog at the Washington Post. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, how are you?
I am wonderful. Thanks for joining us. And as I always said, if you go to the Right Turn blog at thewashingtonpost.com and you read Jennifer, you got to go back like an hour later because Jennifer's written again. And it's always great to read what she has to say. Now, let's start with, I know you weren't able to view the press conference, but I will say this. The president, first in his opening remarks, addressed the economy, addressed what ISIS, and addressed Russia briefly, and then taking questions when asked about possibly bombing in Syria. In response to ISIS, the president said that despite what the news reports have been saying and some news commentators have been saying, we have no strategy on ISIS. So I'll ask you what I just asked the congressman. How is that possible, and why would you stand before the world and say that?
Well, I am very happy to report that the president and I are finally on the same page. I also agree we have no policy for dealing with ISIS. This is what we on the conservative side have been saying for months, years now, that this president has no strategy. Everything seems to take him by surprise. He is never prepared when aggressors strike. He has been caught unprepared time and time again. And he announces this because I suppose he has no choice. Otherwise, people will start asking him why he isn't acting on his policy. He doesn't have one, so he'll have to study it, he'll have to talk to his advisors, and then he might do something about this grave threat to America.
It is kind of weird, and you write another piece, U.S. allies abandon hope of Obama leadership, and you point to a story the other day in the New York Times about what's going on. I believe it was had something to do with Libya, correct?
Correct. Our allies, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, and the Egyptians decided to act independently and attack Libya. They no longer are going to wait around for American leadership. That would be truly waiting for Godot. They understand that if they are threatened by ISIS, by other radicals in the region, then they're going to have to do something about it because the United States sure isn't going to act.
And I mean, this is just, it really is. It is as if the congressman who we just had on right before you, Congressman Blake Farenthold, said with regard to ISIS, the president has to pull his head out of the sand trap. It just seems as if there's no interest in any of this.
No, there really isn't. And, you know, the White House people get all fussy that we complain about the Gulf. The reason we complain about the Gulf is that it's a metaphor, that he is completely checked out, that he seems to be the only person in America who is unaware of the grave threats to our country, whether it is from ISIS, whether it's Iran. And people have decided they've had enough. So Gulf is not the problem. It's a visual example, however, a nice metaphor for why this president is in such deep trouble and why America's in such deep trouble.
And, of course, another issue is the invasion of Ukraine today by Russia, over 1,000 troops from what we could tell. And you wrote about that as well, saying that Obama expresses concern. Well, he expressed that basically. As a matter of fact, he came up at the press conference, Jennifer, with the great conclusion. He even admitted that it was a foregone conclusion, but he said now there's no doubt that Russia is responsible for those Russian separatists in Ukraine, that Russia's responsible for the violence, for the arming them, et cetera, et cetera. Gee, that's tough words.
It's really remarkable. When did he realize this? Or when was he get this? Was it like this week? You know, it's really pathetic. And it does suggest precisely why we're in this mess. We've had a president who denies reality, who won't take meaningful steps against aggressors, who tells the world we're not going to act, who wants to pull every troop out of every hot spot in the Middle East. And so when this comes along, he then has to scratch his head and say, oh, yeah, this is kind of a bad thing. Those people are lying to us. When did you discover that the Russians are lying to us? It's really quite shocking at some level.
Well, what about, as you also write about today, the Iranian, as you put it, or the headline writer put it, shenanigans, Iran's leaders internalizing a key lesson: they have nothing to fear from Barack Obama. And, you know, we extended that negotiation period. We gave them more time when originally in the State of the Union and in proximity to that, the President, State Department, they all said that if Iran, is not compliant by X date, the deadline that was imposed, we'll increase sanctions, we'll pull it off the table, etc. And instead, they extended it, they decreased sanctions, and Iran's laughing all the way to the nuclear bank.
Yeah, and a couple things in the near term. One was conduct some, quote, mechanical tests on one of their uranium enrichment plants. And the other is they made this really kind of measly statement on their plutonium heavy water plant at Iraq. They said they were making modifications, and then they quickly added, but we have a right to enrich. Now, where would they have gotten that idea? Oh, I know, from the interim agreement we signed. This is the natural conclusion of what this president has been doing. I suspected all along this is where this president was headed. This is essentially containment. They've accepted that Iran, quote, has a right to enrich, unquote. They've accepted that they're not going to get these plants destroyed. They're just going to be sort of fiddled with. It's like tuning down the radio. Now, your listeners shouldn't do that, but turning down the volume on the radio, you can turn it back up in a moment's notice. But I think given the state of the world and given how really pathetically the president is performing, you're going to see quite a pushback, even from Democrats, I think, if he continues to go down this road.
All right, you talk about, and we mentioned at the beginning, Hillary Clinton as someone who probably will seek the presidency, and you also write today about her and her nagging problem when it comes to her attempt to separate herself from Barack Obama and the Russian reset and everything else.
Yeah, I just want to know why we should have confidence in her as a commander-in-chief when in her first act of true independence, she spends about 12 hours separating herself from the president. And then when the White House is dipped, she goes running back to apologize and saying she really isn't attacking the president. I mean, doesn't that tell you all you need to know? Barack Obama apparently is the only person that scares Hillary Clinton, but not Russia and Iran. Really a remarkable statement that the woman who for 4 years was, we were told, close to the president, spoke for him, understood him, supported his policies in Iraq, supported his policy in Russia, the Russian reset, that all of a sudden she wants to blame responsibilities for the results. I don't think that's going to fly. And if she ever comes out of hiding and allows herself to be interviewed by tough interviewers, or frankly has to face real candidates, either in her party or in the general election, I think she's going to have a devil of a time, because she can't have it all ways. She can't have been his greatest cheerleader and now turn around and say, gosh, the world's a mess. Maybe I need to distance myself from myself.
Well, that will take a media. And speaking of the media, you also talk about Rand Paul, and you talk about what you call his nutty worldview and how the media doesn't challenge it. What do you mean?
The media doesn't tend, as you very well know, to focus on substance. They're very process-oriented. They have a very superficial idea of what is accurate, what policies are working, what's going on in the world, and particularly with respect to political reporters, people who cover horse race politics. They almost pride themselves on not knowing anything about foreign policy. So when a guy comes along and spouts this nonsense, like we don't have a stake in who wins in Iraq, or we caused ISIS to arise by our overzealousness, this is really nutty stuff. The media tends not to challenge him on the substance. It's almost like they don't care what he says, or they don't understand why he's so wrong. They just report, oh, this person then attacked him, and he attacked them, and there's this big fight, and the Libertarians are crosswise with the Republicans. They never stop to examine just how far-fetched and really inaccurate his statements are.
Yeah, he sounds a little bit like his dad, who once said, "Why can't Iran have a bomb? We have a bomb."
Right.
So yeah, that's a little. Hopefully he'll modify that to some extent. Anyway, Jennifer, great talking to you as always, folks. The Right Turn column author of the Right Turn blog at the Washington Post, Jennifer Rubin. Thank you. All right, folks, we're coming back. And we're going to come back with Gimme 5. If you want to reach us, you want to comment on this show, I'd like to know what you think about this show. Maybe I'm crazy. Here's how you do it.